Everyone is voting for Jack, 'cause he's got what all the rest lack. Everyone wants to back Jack. Jack is on the right track.
Americans famously remember Kennedy as the winner of the 1960 televised debates and Nixon as the winner on the radio. However, Kennedy did not solely win from his image on screen in the debates. His innovative use of media began long before then. It was the responsibility of the press during the 1960 campaign for presidency to be objective when reporting on John F. Kennedy and his competitors. The American people had a right to see beyond the shallow image they were presented with. John F. Kennedy and his wife, Jackie, shaped his legacy during his 1960 campaign for president through the time of his assassination in 1963 to present himself as a young, fresh mind in a world of old politics, with the support of newspapers, television, and historians.
I am today announcing my candidacy for the presidency of the United States.
Because of the lack of competition for the Republican presidential nomination and his experience as Eisenhower's vice president, the Republican Party supported Richard Nixon. Kennedy, however, faced stiff competition for the Democratic nomination, so journalists and voters paid more attention to the Democrats. Articles and ads in newspapers across the nation displayed Kennedy in their headlines. Yet reporters faltered in their responsibility to present all candidates equally, leaving the public without their right to become familiar with their potential presidents. Kennedy was young, which many equated to inexperienced, and Democrats were worried a Catholic candidate would fail, just as Al Smith, their past Catholic presidential candidate, had in 1928. Winning the primaries would solidify his nomination, so Kennedy began campaigning shortly after the 1956 election. Publishing in the same year Kennedy's best-selling book, Profiles in Courage, raised his own profile. Some conflicting opinions about who wrote the book arose after Kennedy's death, believing Ted Swanson, Kennedy's speechwriter, wrote the majority. It was the right of the public to know the truth, instead of being introduced to a false Kennedy image. Beginning campaigning long before the election year and giving more credit to the primaries would become a new strategy to change the way future candidates would campaign. In the Wisconsin primary, Kennedy faced his main competitor, Minnesota Senator Hubert Humphrey. Wisconsin, being in Humphrey's backyard, was thought to give him the upper hand, but he, along with the voters, quickly realized the extent of Kennedy's influence. Jackie and the glamorous Kennedy family were found all over the state promoting their Jack. Family money allowed him to crisscross Wisconsin in his private jet, attending city halls and county fairs wherever he could increase his recognition among the voters. Humphrey's cheap transportation, on the other hand, stopped reporters from wanting to ride with him. Humphrey charged Kennedy with racing through the state with a suitcase full of money, trying to buy the election. Kennedy's staff ensured the presence of reporters in order to familiarize the public with the new face of Kennedy and keep them well informed on every speech he presented or event he attended. Kennedy won the Wisconsin primaries, but the small margin of victory created fear in Kennedy's camp as he entered the mainly Protestant West Virginia primary. Kennedy faced the controversy over his Catholic affiliations head-on.
I came to the state of West Virginia, which has fewer numbers of my co-religionists than any state in the Union. I would not have come here if I didn't feel that I was going to get complete opportunity to run for office as a fellow American in this state. I would not run for it if in any way I didn't feel that I could do the job. So I come here today saying that I think that this is an issue which not.
Party worries on Kennedy's religion were dismissed when he won in West Virginia and the other primaries. The public was now acquainted with the handsome and revolutionary face of John F. Kennedy because of the media's lopsided coverage during the primaries. By 1960, 9 out of 10 households in America had a TV. Kennedy embraced this, plastering his face and message on every television across America.
Les habla la esposa del senador John F. Kennedy, candidato a la presidencia de los Estados Unidos.
Want to move ahead with new leadership. Let's elect John F. Kennedy president.
A man who's old enough to know Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Future candidates would need to place higher importance on all forms of media, especially TV, like Kennedy had. The first televised presidential debate was a momentous event in U.S. history. Kennedy jumped at the opportunity to utilize the free airtime, knowing his strength on screen. Nixon would regret his decision to participate in the debates, as his debating skills failed to save him from the harsh realities of television. His sickly appearance, poorly fitting gray suit, and 5 o'clock shadow made him fade into the background, while Kennedy's crisp black suit and personable demeanor made him more appealing. During the debates, Kennedy looked directly into the camera to address the American people, answering the press questions to fit his own agenda. Kennedy coined the phrases "missile gap" and "race to the moon" to play to the public sphere of communism and Soviet domination. The media mimicked these concerns, leading Americans to believe these problems were not being addressed by the current Eisenhower-Nixon administration. Kennedy's call for change throughout the debates attacked the existing administration, putting Nixon on the defensive. The public saw Nixon as a man of the past, while Kennedy was the new man of change. In order to keep his white Southern voters, Kennedy kept his support for civil rights under the radar. When Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested in October, Kennedy showed compassion on the matter by placing a call to Mrs. King. Nixon, however, did not. Due to the coverage of the event by black newspapers, blacks would remember Kennedy's actions on Election Day. In another attempt to appeal to black voters, the Kennedy campaign created a pamphlet nicknamed the Blue Bomb, which publicized Kennedy's support for civil rights, stating the presidential race as "No Comment Nixon" versus "A Candidate with a Heart, Senator Kennedy." It was only distributed in black communities to minimize the attention from white segregationists. It was the right of all Americans to be informed about Kennedy's political stances, giving the responsibility to all forms of media. Kennedy's good looks, youth, and charisma made him more of a celebrity than a politician, with television's influence. He won the hearts of people all over America. Looks, however, can be deceiving. Not only was his family life riddled with affairs, but Kennedy also suffered from many health problems throughout his career. Kennedy endured chronic back pain and suffered from Addison's disease. His political rivals tried to bring the ailments to the public's attention, but due to his denial, journalists did not pursue the story. Although pain was constant in his life, Kennedy did not want to seem weak or sickly to the American people, seeing that his campaign emphasized his image and youth that appealed to the young voters. It was the responsibility of the press to dig deeper into Kennedy's true politics rather than just his image as a celebrity. Even historians got wrapped around Kennedy's finger, informing the public of what Kennedy wanted them to hear. Theodore White published The Making of the President about the 1960 election, and it quickly became a bestseller. His book added to the national affection for Kennedy that only increased after his death. Jackie Kennedy continued her support for the Kennedy image even after his assassination, conducting an interview for Life magazine, nicknaming Kennedy's administration Camelot. As Jackie said, "There will be great presidents again, but there will never be another Camelot." The public would remember the 1960 administration as the dreamy utopia of Camelot because of historian Arthur Schlesinger and Jackie Kennedy's influence. 1960 had birthed new standards for campaigns. After Kennedy's run, presidents such as Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama all followed suit as self-selected candidates, faced public concerns directly, or had a movie star essence which separated them from their political rivals, just as Kennedy had. Kennedy's impact in campaigning is still seen today. His assassination left the responsibility of providing commentary on politics to journalists, as the newly interested nation exercised their right for an in-depth and personal coverage of their potential leaders.